glad to be with you again for our virtual reading fair. And again, I'm Meredith McGee, and this meeting will be hosted by Mary Hardy, who will introduce herself, and everybody else can introduce themselves afterwards.
All right. I'm Mary Hardy, Greenville, Mississippi.
Yes, I'm
from Jackson, Mississippi.
okay. Well, I'm Vicki Jenkins.
All right, Harry. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see me now? Okay.
We can. We can.
Huh?
We can see you and hear you. All right, Harry, introduce yourself.
My name's Harry, and I am 6 years old, and I am going to the first grade.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will continue with our presentations, and we will, William, would you like to go first?
Okay, I got a book by Bernie Sanders called Guide to Political Evolution. And what I'm going to be talking on today is promoting energy efficiency. And energy efficiency is the long-hanging fruit in the battle against climate change. This is Bernie Sanders writing this.
Okay.
It's easy, it is relatively inexpensive, and it is every kilowatt we save through energy efficiency is 1 kilowatt that we do not have to produce. Pretty straightforward. 40% of energy used in this country goes to heat, cool, and light buildings and run electricity through them. Making our homes, office buildings, schools, and factories more energy efficient will reduce energy demand, save money on fuel bills, and cut carbon emissions, and create good paying jobs. We're talking about making sure every new building is built on the highest energy efficiency standards, and that old buildings are retrofitted as much as possible to incorporate state-of-the-art insulation, efficient LED lighting, and modern heating and cooling systems. It never ceases to amaze me that in my state of Vermont, where we still have some very cold winters, many people, particularly low-income families, live in fully insulated homes. The reason is simple. They do not have the money to pay the upfront cost to weatherize their homes. This is an issue that I've encountered over and over. The cost of an energy product, whether weatherizing a house, insulating, installing energy efficient lighting, replacing an old heating system for an efficient one, or installing solar panels is often a barrier to implementing the project, even though these efficiency improvements can return as much as $3 or $4 in savings for every dollar invested. That is why innovative financing programs like on-bill financing and property assessed clean energy loans are so important for homeowners and business owners alike. These programs allow a utility or municipality to lend customers money to make efficiency improvements. The customers then pay off the loan directly to their utility or property bill, on their utility or property bill, while their energy costs decline. This is not a win-win situation. If this is not a win-win situation, I'm not sure what is. The barrier to upfront cost is removed, and the consumer uses less energy. We must take a hard look at increasing the efficiency in the transportation sector, which produces 26% of all greenhouse gas emissions and half of all toxic emissions. New efficiency standards could reduce gasoline consumption by 12 billion barrels over 10 years. However, then the United States will lag behind the more aggressive efficiency standards in Japan, Canada, South Korea, and most European nations. Instead of the current goal of reaching 5.4 million miles per gallon, we should at the very least set the goal at 65 miles per gallon.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Electric car research, particularly advanced batteries. The purchase of electric vehicles and the building of recharging infrastructure necessary for widespread adoption. Lastly, increasing transportation efficiency means making major improvements to our intercity rail and public transit systems. Modern rail and transit systems would take significant numbers of trucks and cars off the roads and move people and cargo in a far more energy efficient manner and significantly reduce carbon emissions.
Okay. So that's Bernie Sanders
Bernie Sanders,
on energy efficiency.
energy efficiency,
Okay. You know, and some of your energy companies are updating their meters. I'm thinking that's they're trying to help us become energy efficient.
That's very important for the future, you know, for the climate change and everything, you know.
Yeah.
Is anybody responsible for the energy? Does it come through the legislature, or who is responsible for the energy?
I think it's pretty much the whole government. The federal government can have something to do with passing legislation and everything, you know.
That companies providing the energy has to help their constituents with the energy efficiency by providing updates.
Yeah.
Is it going to cost more?
That's the question. I hope not. I hope we can get this thing off the ground, you know, and get. One thing that he did say was that about financing programs. That.
But now, what is it?
About financing programs like own building.
Okay, what is the energy to be used for? Energy efficiency, but what is it to be used for?
To reduce pollution and also to decrease energy bills for people.
So the main thing is leveling the price and the energy, make it so that all can afford it.
Yeah. Reducing bills like financing programs, on bill financing, and property assessed clean energy loans, stuff like that, you know.
Okay. All right. So are any other questions for William? So
That's so good.
So, okay, so we hope that does become on fruition so that we can continue to afford our energy, and that homes and buildings that are constructed will be built with those energy efficient codes.
We no longer will be dependent on the oil then, you know, for everything, you know.
All right, that's a good article, William. Very good.
Thank you.
So is his book divided into areas, different areas?
Let me show you here. It's a chapter she's got in this book. Chapter 1 is guaranteeing a livable and wage and a decent life. And the
Okay.
second one is real tax reform. The third one is reforming Wall Street.
Okay, okay.
And these
So
go
they're,
on, you know,
okay, divided into,
different chapters.
okay,
Uh-huh.
all righty, thank you. So would you recommend that book for us to read?
Oh yeah, I really got a lot out of it. I really enjoyed it. And a lot of the ideas I put in the New Populist Party, my book, came
Okay,
out off of what Bernie Sanders was talking about in this book, you know.
okay, so it helped you with some ideas. All right, thank you,
Yeah.
all right, Vicky, you want to go
All
next?
right. I'm still here. Can you see me?
We can see you.
Okay, and you, okay. I am still in Sleepy Hollow.
Okay, you want to continue?
Huh? Yeah.
Are you continuing?
Yes, I'm gonna continue. I am going to continue in Sleepy Hollow.
Okay,
Sure, we got all the vegetables we needed to grow up as big and strong as the grown-up. But do you want to know something? I really did not like anything green, especially vegetables. If it were green and mama said it was good, for me, it was not good to eat. Well, I cannot really say that I hated greens because my most favorite I would pass by a tremendous apple tree daily on my way to feed the farm. Oh, wait a minute. Feed the hogs, feed the pigs rather, when I was coming home from the field for lunch. I would eat the apples straight from the tree till my face was sticky with their sweet juice. Shame on you, Mary. Sometimes I would wait until I got home and let mama bake the apple in the oven until it was soft and the aroma filled the kitchen. Baked green apples were best lunch to have in the summer. My mama fussed and mussed at me for not eating enough other food. Baby, you're going to be malnourished. You know, you're not eating enough to stay alive and grow up at all, she would say. But I'm here, all grown up. I survived. Sullivan Hollow was best known past, and I only got a chance to be around once in a while. I can still remember charming smell and sweet taste of those muscadines. There were bunches of muscadine vines growing up in the middle of the cotton fields when I was little. My sibling and I really had to whack and whistle the way I went to the fields and green cotton stalks to get to those purple and believe me, we were determined to get our faces and hands all sticky, smelly, and colored purple with the grapes. June bugs added a pleasant, lazy buzz to the summer air as they zimmed and zoomed and zipped around with the bumblebees. When I finished with my chores, I would occasionally catch a June bug sitting on its tail. I would sit under a shady tree Let the June bug fly around me like a kite tail, till he broke free and flew away. The happiness I enjoyed from the green apples, sweet muscadine grapes, bumblebees, and siblings got even better when Uncle Hubbard came to visit. When Uncle Herbert came to visit us, it was always cause for excitement and cheer. He did not live far from my house. I was what his brothers and sisters called the house, and where my daddy, mama, and siblings lived. They called it that because they all grew up there and children too. I was just down the narrow curving road from my Uncle Herbert and Auntie. Uncle Herbert's house was near the main country road where the traffic of the travelers that we saw flowed through the woods down the gravel lane to the countryside. Uncle Herbert was my daddy's big brother. My cousin labeled him as my most favorite. I'd see him sitting on his porch, sometimes even from the window of our house. He could tell who passed by and what time and what kind of car that they were driving. My auntie, Uncle Herbert, his wife, my auntie, Uncle Herbert's wife, was just as curious and just as observant as he was. I remember my Uncle Herbert as a quiet yet jolly to live with his dad's house. Mama always made Uncle Herbert feel welcome when he visited, when she was making breakfast in the morning or when she was making supper in the evening. Can anybody hear me or somebody else reading?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. One of my most favorite times with Uncle Herbert was during the watermelon harvest one year. Watermelon harvest took place during the late summer, just before it was time to go back to school. Uncle Herbert came and played a visit, and he always did. By the time Uncle Herbert caught Joe and the sack of melons and vegetables and stowaway, Uncle Herbert slowly made his way from the fields to his house, singing and whistling himself all the way. It was a short trip down the narrow and dusty road. It wasn't long before we stopped. Uncle Herbert tied up old Joe from the house and started taking off the sack. The first bag he picked up was to take off to the house was mine. When he entered the house, my auntie and my little cousins gathered around him to take the watermelon out of the instead of the watermelon. My cousins laughed and surprised. Uncle Herbert made a big show of being shocked and wondered how his brain had turned from me all of a sudden. I smiled, saying to everybody, even though I must have looked real a mess, standing there covered with grain, hay, and stayed with my cousins a long while enjoying the sweet bread and milk that my auntie gave us. It was a great surprise visit. Soon there came a knock on the door, and in came my daddy to take me back home. He talked with Uncle Herbert and Auntie for a while, and soon he scooped me up and left off the floor, and we went back waving goodbye to everyone, while he carried me on his shoulders back home. Mama and my brothers and sisters, I told them all about my day and I had stuck with Uncle Herbert and the burlap sack. Well, many years later, after I had grown, many years later, after I had my grown children, my own children and grandchildren, I often look back and wondered about those times in Sullivan Hollow. I asked my mother about the late summer evenings. She told me that after I had jumped into old Joe's feeding sack to hide when Uncle Herbert had passed by my mom and dad's that evening, he had let them know I was there in the sack and safe and sound. So you see, children was well right from the beginning, and it was still a very good day. The end.
Oh, she.
I hope all of y'all. I hope you heard me say read your book, Mary.
Thank you, thank you. So Vicki read Uncle Herbert and the Burlap Sack by Mary
Uncle
Hart.
Herbert and the Burlap Sack, and
This is it. This is the copy of the book. Thank you, Vicki. So do you all have any questions? Or were you able to hear her clearly?
No, ma'am, I have no questions.
No questions?
Yeah.
No questions.
Y'all know this book was
Questions?
Miss Mary's book, and she told the story of her life in the Sleepy Hollow when she was growing up.
Where is Sleepy Hollow?
It's Sullivan Hollow. Vicki is saying Sleepy, but we refer to that area as Sullivan Hollow.
Oh,
It's in Simpson
Sleepy
County.
Hollow. Sullivan
Sullivan Hollow.
Okay.
Near
Simpson County.
McGee.
So I.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excuse me. I renamed it. I call it Sleepy Hollow, but it's Sullivan Hollow.
It's Sullivan Hollow. Because most of the people on that road were Sullivans. The last name was Sullivan. So they just called it Sullivan's Hollow. But Uncle Hubbard was my daddy's brother, and he came to our house every day, in the morning and evening. And he'd come and have coffee with my mother and my grandfather. Because my mother was up every morning, had breakfast prepared between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. Because about 7:15, we had to leave out of the house and go to the field and work. And we would work from that time until 11:45 or 12 o'clock, and we'd come out for dinner, for lunch. My mother would come out and work with us, but she'd leave the field about 10 o'clock to come and prepare the meal. I learned to bake cornbread, and no cornbread was like my bread. So a lot of times she would
Sweet bread.
No, this was regular cornbread. I mean, I would bake the cornbread a lot of times. So I'd come out a little earlier and do the bread for her. So any other questions or comments about Uncle Hubbard and the burlap sack?
Well, coincidentally, like we were talking about, oh, okay, you're from you're from Greenville, but you grew up.
I live in Greenville, but I grew up in South Mississippi, McGee, Mississippi.
Huh?
I live in the Delta, but I grew up in McGee, Mississippi.
Okay. Well, like I said, I grew up in the Delta. And my grandfather had this field, this cotton. And so he had everybody in the family to go chop the cotton. I went out there to the field and I was chopping, and my grandfather looked behind me and saw, well, how you caught up with? I was cutting down the cotton stalks because they never did tell me. Huh? They never did tell me that when you chop the cotton, you don't chop the whole cotton stalk. So I was chopping down the cotton stalk, and my grandfather told me to go up to the house. So he wouldn't let me back out there in the field.
Okay, so that happened a lot. Instead of getting the grass around the cotton stalk, you cut the grass and the stalk and the cotton.
The one that made the cornbread, and we call it the sweet bread too. She made the cornbread.
Yeah, okay. Well, the sweet bread was really sweet, but the cornbread was just regular cornmeal bread.
Yeah.
I love cornbread.
You love cornbread? Yeah.
I make the best cornbread in the world.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Black-eyed peas, green beans.
Cornbread was very good, and cornbread was very good when we were growing up. Cornbread was easily cooked, and my grandmother was the one who made the cornbread. She was the cornbread maker in the family, because she made cornbread.
Okay.
Both my grandparents on both sides made real good cornbread.
Okay. Very good. Well, I don't make it very often because when I do, I eat it, and I'll eat all of it. Okay, very good. Let's move on to Harry. Harry?
Yes, ma'am. I'm continuing 10 pages of Nature Near and Far.
Harry, I can't hear you.
He hadn't started.
Oh, you hadn't started? Oh, okay.
Harry, tell us the title again.
Nature Near and Far.
Okay, Nature Near and Far.
Near
okay.
And far. Okay.
Animal moms. This mom has cubs. The cubs are just like their mom. They can't swim in cold water. Swim cubs, swim mom. This mom is hunting with her cubs. What is jumping in the water? Hunt cubs, grab a snack. This mom is with her kids. They swim in a pond. Their pond has lots of sticks, grass, and twigs. Swim kids, swim mom. This mom is with her pups. Their pond is filled with mud. They can swim fast in wet mud. Swim pups, swim mom. This mom is with her little ducks. Ducks swim and swim. It is fun. Have fun, ducks. Swim, swim, swim. Scratch, 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 chomp. Dad can coach, but Dad did not catch this catch. He never missed. Dad, why did you miss? Chuck asked. I hear scratch, scratch, chomp, chomp. Do you ask Dad? Just said scratch, scratch, chomp, chomp. What is that? Asked Chuck. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Chuck and Dad thought what was chomping and scratching. That's 10 pages.
10 pages already?
Yes, ma'am. I have a short book with this.
Okay.
That's 21 stories in this book.
Okay, so would you like to read a little bit more?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, read a few more pages.
Scratch, scratch, chomp, chomp. Chuck and Dad can see a stump and lots of chip. A big brown lump is in the pond. A lawn has an animal on it. This animal can scratch, scratch, scratch. It can chomp, 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 and chomp, chomp, chomp. Can you tell me what it is? That's the end of that story.
All right, thank you, thank you. You have another one to read this evening?
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna read more of this story.
Okay, okay. So would you like to give us a summary of your story that you read this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
First, those animal moms. One of the mom had cubs that were swimming in cold water. One of the moms had some more cubs that were eating fish. And the mom duck was with her little ducks swimming in a pond. And then that's animal mom. Now scratch chomp. The dad missed the ball in baseball because he heard scratch, scratch, chomp, chomp. So they went looking where the chomp, chomp and scratch, scratch were coming from, and they found a tree chopped down, and then there was a big lump in the pond, and then there was an animal on the big lump, and that's the end.
Very good, Henry. Hey, is it Harry? Harry. Very, very
Harry.
You know those sound words like chomp, chomp, scratch, scratch? That's onomatopoeia. That's what I call onomatopoeia.
Okay.
Scratch, scratch, chomp, chomp. Those sound words.
Did they ever know what was an animal that was doing a scratch, scratch, chomp, chomp?
He showed the picture.
What's the picture? Can you see that, William?
No.
What is that, Harry?
It's right there.
Yes, right here. So what is that?
It's a beaver.
A beaver.
Beaver. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good, Harry. Good job. Any other questions?
Yes, Harry, very good. Say what?
Any other questions for Harry? Okay, well, I'm going to read from Remember the Bridge. And the poem is entitled Soul Food. There's black-eyed peas, collard greens, dirty rice and pinto beans, brown sugar glaze on smokehouse ham, pickled beets and candy yams, chicken and dumplings, turkey and stuffing, buttermilk biscuits and cornbread muffins. Grandma rose early to prepare this spread, to bake pound cake and gingerbread, to shell peas for derby pie, and clean a mess of fish to fry. She asked a blessing before we ate and always set an extra plate for an unexpected visitor. Her home, like her heart, an open door. Soul food. Have any questions?
That sounds like my kind
How's
of
that?
food.
Mine too. Mine
I feel
also.
hungry now.
Makes
I
you
feel
feel hungry.
Now,
I want gingerbread
green
and
beans.
turkey and chicken dumplings.
Okay,
You're
you need
hungry.
turkey. Okay, you need some turkey and dressing with the collard greens.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like
gingerbread.
right. Sounds like now. Thank you. Thank you. So anyone else would like to read or share? Lynette said she was trying to get on, but it wouldn't take the number. So I don't know whether she's going to try again or just, she said she would just wait and get on this evening. So anything else?
I have a friend that's
No.
expecting a call from me. I'm gonna have to leave.
Okay. Here's Lynette. Lynette's coming in. Okay, William, we'll excuse you.
Y'all have a good day.
Will you be back this evening?
What time? 2:15?
2:15?
Okay, all right.
Okay, well, we'll see you then.
See you then. Okay, y'all have a
Yes,
good
thank
day.
you.
Okay.
Thank
all
you.
right.
Hey.
Okay, Lynette.
I made it.
All righty. So did you go back and click on the link from yesterday?
No, what I did was I had given Joshua the code, so I had to go back in Messenger and get the code from yesterday.
Okay. So the code I sent you
Hey
didn't work?
William, hey Henry, hey Vicky, ma'am.
The code that I sent didn't work?
I didn't get an email yesterday. She just gave me the code.
Okay.
It comes. Sometimes my email comes late.
Okay. Well, we're ready for you. We've all presented.
Oh, okay. I said hello to everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm gonna pick back up with the Great Migration, Jacob Lawrence, and I have been to the African American Museum in DC. So I'm hoping when all this is over, I'm going back again, and I'm gonna see if I can find and see any works in here by him.
Okay.
All right, Harry, you remember the word migration?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that was a big word for this story. Okay, The Great Migration by Jacob Lawrence. All right. Southern landowners, stripped of cheap labor, tried to stop the migration by jailing the labor agents and the migrants. Sometimes the agents disguised themselves to avoid arrest, but the migrants were often taken from railroad stations and jailed until the trains departed. Remember, this when people were trying to move from the south to the north for a better life for themselves and their families. Black and white Southern leaders met to discuss ways to improve conditions to stop the flow of workers north. Although life in the north was better, it was not ideal. So people tried to stop them from going, and they would. But even though they were detaining people, they were trying to come up with ways to make people to want to stay and maybe want to come back home. Many migrants moved to Pittsburgh, which was a great industrial center at the time. Although they were promised better housing in the North, some families were forced to live in overcrowded and unhealthy quarters. Now you see he was showing all those people in the bed, and sometimes conditions were better, but they were still crowded or they were unhealthy because people were on top of one another. The migrants soon learned that segregation was not confined to the South. Oh my. So they left home to get away from all of that, and they moved to a new area with some more of the same. Many northern workers were angry because they had to compete with the migrants for housing and jobs. There were riots. So riots are out of control fights. People burning and looting and killing, being bad, being ugly. Longtime African-American residents living in the North did not welcome the newcomers from the South and often treated them with disdain. So they look like they're a little ritzy, they have some money, and they're looking down on people who are coming for a better life. The migrants had to rely on each other. The storefront church was a welcoming place and the center of their lives in joy and sorrow. So people had to find some happiness and some companionship and some love where they could. Black professionals, such as doctors and lawyers, soon followed their patients and clients north. Female workers were among the last to leave. Life in the North brought many challenges, but the migrants' lives had changed for the better. The children were able to go to school and their parents gained the freedom to vote. School and voting, that's how you make your voices heard, be able to read and be able to speak, and then go to the polls and vote. And the migrants kept coming. Theirs is a story of African-American strength and courage. I share it now as my parents told it to me because their struggles and triumphs ring true today. People all over the world are still on the move, trying to be a better life for themselves and for their families. The end. And that is the Great Migration. That's a history lesson.
Yes, yes.
Very concise, thorough, very thorough lesson. Thank you, Lynette.
You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions for Lynette?
No, ma'am.
Vicki, any question? Have a question for Lynette?
No, Lynette, I was just understanding and looking at you talking about the Great Migration, and that was all. That was good. I guess I should have no questions really about that, about the migration, because that is historically correct. But that was very enlightening.
But I want to ask you, do you think that we're better off since we migrated to the city compared to when we were on the farm producing everything that we needed?
Now you talking to a city girl.
Yes.
All right.
So, right. So I migrated from the north to the south, and I don't even know how to answer. I mean, it's better, not so much as migration. If you're able to go to school and live like you want to live and work like you want to work and do the things that you want to do, And if you had to move from one side of town to the other to do that, you have to look at your opportunities and decide what's best for you and what's best for yours. Some people think city living is bad. I love city living. So I moved from an urban area to a rural area. So that was a culture shock for me. So I know that the people who moved from a rural area to an urban area, that was culture shock for them.
And just from
But if
observation. Okay, well, just some observation with me being from South Mississippi and moving to the Delta. You know, I knew and encountered people who moved from the plantation in LaFleur County. They moved from the plantation to town. And I don't think conditions were any better because some of the homes were not better, but it was the idea of being kind of free from confinement.
Right, the freedom, right.
Right. So it was more of feeling free and not being confined. That more of that than anything else.
But I agree because right, if you are free to choose how you live, then you already moving up. Because think about these people who may have high paying positions, but they would trade the money and the trappings of the money for a simpler life. But they making all the money, but they don't feel free to do what they want to do. Now, one thing that I had heard about the migration, but I saw it said that the women were last to leave. So I'm interested to know why that was. Maybe because they took care of the home. Maybe why everybody else left. Maybe they kept the kids in the house together until the money and the situation got better, and then she was able to leave.
Yeah, well, that was the situation. I believe that the males were able to find a job, and they wanted to make sure that they could actually take care of their families before the families came.
But I have to let y'all know.
The kids.
I didn't hear. They did. Say that again.
Vicky's gone. Well, Vicky's gone. I was gonna say that, and it may be that the parents left the kids with the grandparents, so that they could go. You know, like say the mom and daddy left and left the grandparents with the kids, so that the both of them could work to make it better for for everybody. Everybody who could go went. And then the other people, the older people maybe stayed home and took care of the kids, and then when everybody was able to move, everybody was able to move.
So one group made way for the other.
Yeah.
Hey, Vicki, were you saying something?
It's happening today.
What now?
That you were saying something.
I was talking about migrating, but the migration, and I was saying, curiously, my mom, Mississippi and through Mississippi. When they migrated from Dublin up to Clarksdale. So they went some distance. They migrated a while, migrated very far. So they went from Dublin to Clarksdale. So they did migrate. So they went very far. They went off of Mr. Charlie to their own place, but they went from Dublin to Clarksdale. So
okay.
Well, they got out somebody else's place and got it on their own place, so they already improved their situation.
So what now?
They moved off somebody else's place to their own place, so that is helped them. That's what they moved. They improved their own situation.
But that's true, even though it was just a few miles. This is true. It's just a few miles, but at least they moved to their own place. Yes.
Right. And that was the objective,
right.
To be able to take care of themselves,
right.
Be free, be self-sufficient.
So what now, Mayor?
I said that was the objective, to be self-sufficient, to be free, be able to take care of themselves, and to be self-sufficient.
Well, yeah. So I was coming. Yeah, it was. 'Cause they did come from out there off the plantation. They did go to Clarksdale in order to get their own place. So they did. So they did migrate to, yes, they did.
Okay. So thank you, Lynette. Thank you, Vicki. Harry,
Welcome.
Meredith, are you back? You're on mute.
I'm back, but I'm not gonna read nothing until this evening.
Okay, but I think we have all shared. It is 12:03. So we will dismiss if there are no other comments until 2:15 this afternoon. We hope to see you.
Trey is here. He might read in.
Okay, so Trey is expected to be back at 2:15.
Oh.
Okay.
So now, Mary, are we using the
Hey,
Yes, we'll use the same number, the same code.
pardon me?
We will
Okay.
use the same code. Just hi, Trey.
hey,
Yeah.
Trey.
Hi, Trey.
Hi.
Hey, Harry.
Harry.
Vicky, Lynette.
Mary.
Mary.
Harry. I'm
So
sorry.
I'm gonna go back and
I'm sorry.
look at the video. And
Okay,
I'm
well,
gonna upload it in a few minutes, y'all.
all right, so we'll see you at 2:15.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.